Okay, hey guys. Uh, okay, so I'm just looking at the chat here for a second. Xavier, you're telling me you don't have a camera today. That's okay. Thank you for letting me know. If you could just voice confirm with me real quick, Xavier, that it is in fact you, I'd appreciate it. Xavier, is that you, bud? Xavier? Okay, I'll take his word for it. It certainly sounds like it. So let's see. How are we doing today? A lot has happened since we last talked. Let's have a prayer real quick and do the pledge, and we can go ahead and get started. Let's see. Gary, would you lead us in both, if you're up for it?
Sure. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and shall be, world without end. Amen. Son, and Holy Spirit. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Like I said, a lot has happened since we sat in this class. Mainly referring to stuff around the school. What do you guys think?
To be exact, like, we're not having classes with them, right?
Correct.
Okay, so where are they going to be?
We've actually had a chance to talk with the administration quite a bit about what the plan is as far as where they're going to be and what we're doing. So the idea is that, and this is what I kind of figured, is that they're going to be on a completely different level of the building. They're going to either they're going to take third floor or we're going to take third floor, and either they're going to take first floor, and then maybe the second floor, some sort of common area. So, their teachers are going to be in a separate part. Our teachers are going to be in a separate part. I think the idea is that, that they want to try to keep things, they're not going to be normal, but as normal as humanly possible.
Where are their lockers going to be?
It's like I said, either first floor or third floor. So remember when we had talked about, I think it was a year or so ago, potentially moving some underclassmen lockers to the third floor? You may not remember that, but we did talk about it. And so I think they'll just execute that plan. But what they'll do is they'll put some lockers on the third floor, either for St. Gertrude's or for us. Is it something that, I guess I was more thinking, is it something that you, are there any concerns, or are there any, you think school's going to be significantly different as a result of this?
Yeah.
Why so?
I feel like we're not going to be able to do some of the stuff we do now because y'all feel like it's going to be, like, disrespectful or something to the girls.
Yeah, like, you're talking about, like, when you're in the hallway and stuff.
Yeah.
I guess I can see what you're saying. I think, like, and you got to keep in mind, I've been finding out about all this stuff kind of the same way that you guys have. It's going to be tighter. We're all going to be mostly in the same space, but you guys, I think for the same crap you guys typically do, slam hall and all that other stuff, it could still go on in theory, right, on the first floor. Because there aren't going to be any girls down there.
Is there going to be a senior lounge and stuff?
There will be. They're doing a lot of construction at school now, and it's going to get even more over the course of the summer. Like, so for example, I probably won't have my classroom anymore. I'll probably be moved someplace else. Teachers probably won't have set classrooms. Like, you won't be able to look at room 224 and say, oh, that's Mr. Walker's room. Teachers will be kind of in and out, and we'll be using the pods a lot more. So.
What about lunch?
My understanding is that there will be separate lunches. So they will have like the 11 to 12, and you guys will have the 12 to 1, or maybe vice versa. Something like that. You guys won't be eating lunch at the same time.
There's going to be so many people in the lunchroom at one time.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if they split it up by half hour, then it won't really change. But for us, so if for example, if we get to 11 to 12, we would, there'd be one lunch that was 11 to 11:30, and then the other one that was 11:30 to 12. I think things will definitely be crazy more congested. I'm just thinking about how it affects me, like bringing up those pods again. I'll be, I could sit in my pod. I could go to my classroom. I could sit in the teacher's lounge. I could go to the teacher's lunchroom. I could do a million different things. But now I can only really be in one place. So.
Oh, so you thinking they might make a classroom in the teacher's pod thing?
They could. I mean, 9 new classrooms, right? So those aren't going to come out of thin air, and I don't think they're touching the monks area. I mean, the monks are still going to be with us. So those new classrooms got to come out of existing space. So, I don't know whether they take part of the administration area. I don't know whether they take, but they have a concrete idea about the areas they're going to create as classrooms. Maybe they use rooms in the gym area as classrooms. Who knows? The gym's pretty much done, y'all. I don't know if you guys have seen pictures of it or any of that, but I mean, it is done. Like, they could have a game in there tomorrow if they wanted to. At least from the pictures I've seen.
We do be in there.
What's up?
See, the coach let people go work out in there.
Oh, you've been in there?
Yeah.
When did you go in there?
I went Saturday.
Okay. I mean, you can confirm that, right, Davin? You've seen more than I've seen then. It's done, isn't it?
Yeah, it's done.
Yeah.
Well, it's just more stuff that just got to be added for the alumni.
Yeah. I mean, getting back to the girls thing, I was talking about, the teachers were talking on Friday because we have meetings, and then we were kind of getting around and talking, and, we were saying different things. But I think kind of what we came to, like me, Coach Kaplan, Coach Padron, we were talking about it. And the idea is, like, the tendency is to want to say, this is our space, they're coming into our space, but I think it's so much worse for them.
Yeah.
It is so much worse for them. I mean, they don't get to, we got to tell our building goodbye. And we got to, we will still at the end of the summer be in the same place. I mean, think about if your school had such financial issues that you had to move we had to move our whole school up there. I mean, that's sad, at least for them. So I think if we come at it with a kind of the idea of understanding that I think that's the right way to go about it. Okay, let's go ahead and get started then. If you would, go ahead and pull up your homework. I'm trusting all of you guys are wearing Benedictine or wearing a collared shirt of some kind. Okay. If not, you're going to get yourself removed. So just go ahead and get something if you don't have it already. All right. So have your homework out. Get ready to go.
Which homework were we talking about?
So we've done a couple so far. The one we went over last week was, I think it was the first part of the Russian Revolution. The one we're talking about now is the second part. It was Russian Revolution number 2. Pages 521 through 523, and then 530 through 534 was the reading. So what we'll do is we'll just kind of roll through answering these questions. Bear with me. I'm going to grab textbook real quick, and then we can go about doing that.
So, sir, can I go downstairs and get that?
Yeah, some things never change. What am I going to say, Berthie? No, you can't?
You might.
I could, but then what would you do? Probably not get it since you asked. But if it were me, I'd just be like, well, screw you, Coach Walker. I'm going to go get it anyway. And you know what? There isn't a whole lot I could do about that. It's like somebody, I think it was Charles Buchanan, asked to go to the bathroom. Yes, you can go to the bathroom.
Coach,
What's up?
can't you see like who submitted it?
I can. I just don't have the Dropbox pulled up right now.
Okay, because
Did you submit it?
yes, but Mr. Durant told me that my black bar has been messing up recently.
That yours has?
Yeah.
The best thing to do then, if you're not sure if something has gone through, I would just email me a copy. I've had students do that in the past. If they know their blackboard is wonky, email me a copy. If you need to do that right now, you can.
Okay.
Okay, so we were starting on page 520. And the question was, define totalitarian. Go ahead, Brian Smith, for us. Define what totalitarian is.
Totalitarian is a government that claims absolute power and authority over all individuals and groups in society.
Okay, good. Yes. Red Terror, Bigelow, go for it.
Red Terror, isn't that the communism winning through fear and oppression?
I mean, that's an aspect of it, but I'm more asking, I mean, this was a specific time. Do you have this, Biggs?
No, I thought it was due on Wednesday. I apologize.
Okay, we got something else due on Wednesday, bud. Cole Carmen, you want to give it a shot?
I wasn't in class on Monday, sir.
Oh, on Monday. We were in class on Wednesday.
Wednesday, whenever it was.
Okay. Got to keep up. Got to keep up. Posting videos. Gary Siegler, I'm 0 for 2. I don't want to strike out.
You said Red Terror.
Yes.
I said it was a time and act of murder, or like mass murder, and then gave an example. They would kneel the citizens down and just kill them.
They would kneel the citizens down, and okay, so that was certainly part of it. Why were they doing that, Gary?
Wasn't it because they were part of like the opposite political standpoint or something like that?
Okay, so I mean, political reasons. They were worried about people who might have been against, right?
Oh, against,
Bolshevism.
yeah.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Next question is, though the imperialist whites had been winning the Russian Civil War up to 1918, what key problems did they have working against them? Noah Pappas.
I don't have it, sir.
Henry Guire.
I wasn't in class on Wednesday.
Oh, Sam Saunders. I'm 0 for 2.
People had still suffered from poverty and hunger, and Russian money had become worthless.
Okay. Daniel Berthazil. Would you recover that homework?
Whoever moved it is asleep right now. Can I send it to you like between classes?
Whoever moved it is asleep?
Well, yeah, I had it in the dining room, like on the shelf, and like ranging from kid to kid. One of them thinks that looks bad. Some of them don't. So they cleaned it up and put it somewhere among the other books. So I'm gonna have to find out which one did that. But I can send it to you in a PDF later.
Okay. Daniel, that's fine. It's just way more explanation than I needed, but that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't have it as fine. Let's see. Tate, go for it.
I don't have it.
0 for 2, Wyatt Niefler. Am I striking out this time?
I forgot to do it.
Oh my goodness. Terrence.
Russian people were terrorized by the imperialist whites. They thought they were invaders. All the regions they marched through, Russian people were scared. Also feared that they were going to lose their lands they won in the revolution.
Okay, good. There we go. There we go. All right, moving on. What similarities do you see between what's described in this passage and what we studied with the French Revolution? Davin, give it a shot.
You missed one question. You skipped one question.
Oh, the red. We kind of covered what the Red Terror was, and I think coincidentally he described how it was carried out. So, what similarities do we see? So let's just go with question 4. Davin, you give it a shot.
Yes, sir. I put that they both use an army to basically control the regions, the riots. I meant.
Okay, so there were armies who ended up becoming politically involved. Darrell, what might we add to that?
I said other countries came in.
Explain how.
So like you know how like in Russia the white armies had like the French, like Americans, like and like what is it? It was another country, right? Too. I think it was like China. No, It was something else. I forgot. But other countries came in and like tried to help.
Yes, they did. And why was it, Darrell, that you think that other countries were getting involved in a Russian civil war? Why do they care?
I think because like it's like for real, like you don't want something to get out of hand that can come affect you later. So I think they came in and tried to get it early and try to help out.
Yeah, just like the French Revolution with democracy, they didn't like that idea of democracy. Now we got this idea of communism. These other countries, they want to maintain the status quo. Good. Red Terror, very similar to what event during the French Revolution? What event was that similar to? Red Terror, same words in there.
I do not remember.
The Reign of Terror.
Reign of Terror. Thank you,
yeah,
Tate.
yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
the
yeah.
Reign of Terror. Something stuck in that head of yours. There we go. Yeah, the Reign of Terror. Tate Plagueman, who was the guy who led the Reign of Terror?
What did you
Remember
say?
him?
What did you say?
The guy who led the Reign of Terror during the French Revolution, who was chopping everybody's head off. Long name.
And it starts with like a B.
No, Maximilien Robespierre. And remember, we
Robespierre,
played
yeah.
the assassin game, and to kind of illustrate what that was all about. Yeah, and I think you could do something very similar during all this. All right, good. Let's move on to 530, 534. The question's located there. First question is, what about Vladimir Lenin's policies point to him as being to blame for the starvation of the Russian people when he came to power? Logan Melendez, you want to give it a shot?
Yeah.
Logan, all I can see is your hair.
Can you see me now?
You could pull it, just pull
Hold
the
on.
screen down a little bit. Your hair is very top heavy. It's going straight up. I was
It
able to
is.
see that,
It's,
but I wasn't able to see anything else.
I get a little fro.
Yeah.
Um.
What's that you guys do? Right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
He tried to he didn't feed his people enough and tried to overwork them.
Part of it. What does the textbook say? What does he try to use the government to do to the peasant farms?
Which question?
Oh, does he tax them too much and take their part of their crops?
Okay, he's taken part of their crops. He's taken part of the crops they have. Eric Kaler, you want to add to that?
He put a law to seize the farmers' food, and then he would he turned the factories to the workers.
Good. And so between Logan and Eric, you guys answer this question. Think about this. If you are a farmer, right? If you're a farmer and the Russian government says to you, hey, give me all the food you end up producing, you're required by law, other than just flat out refuse, what might you do? How might you react to that?
You might revolt. Not grow anything.
Not grow anything. Thank you. Yeah, not grow anything. And that way you don't have to hand it over. Well, you don't grow anything, or you grow just enough for yourself, there's going to be mass starvation. And that's exactly what happened. All right. So next question. What did Lenin create in an effort to work with the peasants on their demands? Marshall Williams.
Coach,
Yes, sir.
Xavier said he lagged out and that he's going to send his work through email.
Okay, that's fine. Marshall.
Sir, which one are we on? Are we on number 2?
Number 2.
Lenin came up with what he called the new economic policy.
Okay, the new economic policy, and what did that policy do?
It would preserve some of Bolshevik's ideas by getting rid of others.
Okay, by abandoning the ideas that he had come up with earlier, what did it require the peasants to do?
Give all surplus produced to the government, and they had to
Not in this
pay.
case.
They had to pay a tax.
Yeah, there you go. They're going to pay a tax. Okay, and this ended up being a bit of a better system, and it didn't lead to a starvation like it had done before. But overall, Lenin didn't doing so hot, at least to start out with. All right. Next question is, how did Lenin and the communists feel about religion? Okay, they spend a lot of time in the textbook talking about that. Who wants to give that one a shot? It's got to be someone who's answered before.
Coach.
Go
ahead, Darrell. And then, go ahead.
They described it as a drug for other people because they promised life after.
Okay, good. Yeah, that it promised life after. What's the benefit for promising life after?
That people will do stuff like basically do stuff for you because you're promising them life after death. So they know if you go work with this person, I get life after I die. So
right, if you're a good person, if you stay in line, right? If you stay in line, and so they thought the idea behind this was the Russians or the communists that, hey, this is religion. All religion does is it keeps people, and it's meant to keep people in line.
Yeah.
It's not meant to, that it's all really a lie. Do you remember that those tiers of the different classes we looked at?
Mm-hmm.
And they had that priest. What did it say under the priest? You remember? We blank you.
Yeah.
Fool you. Okay, we fool you. That's the idea, is that all religion's just trying to fool you. That
it was 3 tiers, right?
Yeah. Well, it was multiple tiers. I think it was a little bit more than 3. It might have been 4, but something like that. Yeah. All right. So good. He refers to it as the opiate of the people. Opiate referring to what? What's an opiate? It's like a drug. Opium.
Oh yeah.
Heroin of the people. People are addicted to it, and they base their way of life on it. And it ends up just killing them. That's all it ends up doing. Okay, so how did Lenin, speaking of death, how did Lenin die? Describe the political situation in the Soviet Union following his death. Gary Siegler, you're going to give that a shot?
He suffered 3 strokes. Parties broke out fighting over who should have the power after his death.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So his right arm and leg ended up being paralyzed. This was a life-altering injury. He ended up kind of lingering on for a little bit, but he ended up dying. And then these parties ended up fighting for control. And then the last question, Sam Saunders, why don't you take this one? How did Stalin's treatment of the church compare to that of his predecessor, Vladimir Lenin?
I said it was much more strict than Lenin, as he did not allow churches to run charitable organizations like Relief for the Poor or Care for the Sick.
Yes. So he's going to, it says in the textbook, he's going to intensify his persecution of the church. How did that compare, Sam, with the French Revolution?
I can't really remember.
Somebody help him out. How did the people who carried out the French Revolution, what was their relationship with the church? Did they persecute it? Did they try to help it?
I think they persecuted?
They did. They persecuted. Remember, they took away church lands.
Yeah.
So, France was heavily Catholic. French Revolution happens. They're saying, hey, the church, you're part of that first estate. That's, you guys, so you guys are out, which is essentially what Stalin has done. Okay, good. So if you haven't gotten that homework done, go ahead and get it into me. Let me tell you what it looks like we're going to do from here on out. I think what we're going to do is we're not going to have a test this week. but we will have a test next week, at the end of next week. You guys will also, and I haven't posted these questions yet, at least I don't think I may have, but you have homework that's due for Thursday. That homework is just similar. It's going to be, I've posted the pages online. I've posted the questions up as well. That is going to be due on, excuse me, I said Thursday. It should be Wednesday. That is so just make sure you take care of that before that day. Not very many homework assignments left. My goal is to get to 21 homework, classwork, quiz, and quizzes by the time we get to the end of the grading period. We are going to have a quiz at the end of this week, a quiz on Friday. I can share with you the words. I'll go ahead and do that now. So just make sure you write down these words after I show them to you. And they are going to be largely related to the time between the wars, the time period that we're going to end up talking about. So just go ahead and write these down for me real quick. And so what we'll do is we'll have a quiz on these words on Friday. We will start kind of talking about the time between the wars on Wednesday, and then next class will be dedicated to World War II. And I'd like to just spend 2 classes talking about World War II. I'm not sure one is enough. So we'll see. I might end up pushing that test back to the following Monday, which would coincidentally be the last day of class, but that's pretty far off. So we'll just see where we get.
And do we have to do these words and turn them in?
No, good question. So in the past, you've had to turn the words in. I promise what we'll do, what we'll do is we'll end up going over the meaning to each one of these before you end up taking that quiz. So I'm sharing the words with you now. What we'll do is we'll talk briefly about the meaning to each one of these words on Wednesday. Good question.
Okay.
All right. So if you didn't have enough time to write all those down, just make sure you
I
check.
got 2 left.
Huh?
I got 2 words left, coach.
2 words? Okay.
These last 2 weeks are gonna go by fast.
I think so too. I feel like I feel like when we were doing all that, you guys had to only watch YouTube videos, that was real slow. It took forever. And since then, it's been going by quicker.
I mean, the whole year was going by quick anyway.
Mm-hmm. You don't have to tell me. Having a baby and trying to do all this stuff has been insane. Insane.
Yeah,
Quarantining with a baby is the worst thing that I could ever wish on anybody, by the way.
You said having a baby is the worst thing.
No, I didn't say that. I said quarantining with the baby has been one of the most challenging aspects of my life.
We doing notes, coach?
Yes, sir. We got to wrap up what we started talking about. All right. So, what was the name of the Tsar of Russia who ended up making all these mistakes and there ended up being problems? Gary, what was his name? Do you remember?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I have the notes.
Oh, cool. Anybody remember? Robbie, go ahead.
Tsar Nikolai the First.
Yeah, Nikolai the Second. And he is going to create many mistakes, one of which we talked about extensively last class was listening to one dude. What was the name of that dude?
Rasputin,
right? And so he ended up making it so that the Russian people didn't trust the royal family. And, even though he was killed, his influence had plenty of damage before that happened. So where I think we left off talking about, you guys should have this. Yeah. And I think we even we finished here, right? And what's the significance, did we say, of that room?
That the family was shot at.
Yeah, that's where the Romanov family ended up dying, okay? It was in this room. And so we have the end of the Romanov line. So where is that going to end up leaving us? Well, it's important to understand a little bit of the context. All this happened during the Russian Civil War. You've got white anti-Bolshevik, or another word is imperialist, right? They're supportive of the royal family versus the Reds. And it was during this war that you end up having the Tsar and his family end up getting killed. The whites were supported, as was mentioned during the notes, by countries on the outside. Remember, there were countries who were interested in the Russian Civil War because they did not want to see communism or Bolshevism take root. The whites were winning for the majority of this conflict. And it looked at a point like they might win the war, Lenin might be assassinated, Lenin would be killed himself, and it would be over. But it didn't quite turn in that way. 15 million people ended up dying in 3 years. And it's important to consider this is in addition to what other conflict?
World War I.
Yeah, so 15 million dead alone, and we haven't even talked. We're not even looking at the World War I statistics. So, just one thing. What do we say to know about Russia? What are 2 things Russia never runs out of? Land and what? People. They've got lots of people to just throw at problems, and 15 million over the course of 3 years, just with the Russian Civil War, while they're fighting World War I, that's a lot of dead people. Reds end up winning, mainly because of division amongst the whites, especially after the royal family died. They all agreed that the royal family needed to be placed on the throne, but after the royal family was killed, they weren't quite sure how to do that. One of Lenin's first acts once he takes office is to rename Russia. It's no longer called Russia. He renames a lot of the cities too, but Russia's going to, from here forward, going to be referred to as the United Soviet Socialist Republic, otherwise known as the USSR, otherwise known as the Soviet Union, no longer Russia. And then he's going to rename the Bolsheviks as well. They're no longer the Bolsheviks, they are the Communist Party. Gary, what sort of product are you putting in your hair? Clearly putting something in there.
Water.
Yeah, sure.
When it gets super long, it gets super curly. My hair is below like my nose and everything like that.
Yeah, it's
the haircut bad.
what you should do is, you could look like Odell Beckham and get all these highlights and stuff.
I had that 7th and 8th grade. I'm never doing that again.
Look, do that. Notice that Odell Beckham doesn't even do that anymore because all these kids started copying him. In fact, I think he has a shaved head. I think he shaves it all the way down. Doesn't matter. He's overrated anyway. Devin Cosby, watch episode 5 and 6.
Yes, sir.
They good?
Yes, sir.
Episode 3 was my favorite so far.
He was bleeding after he wore his shoes when he played against the Knicks.
I haven't seen the most recent episodes yet.
Yeah, that's crazy.
What are y'all talking about? The Michael Jordan thing?
Michael Jackson. Oh my goodness.
I didn't say that. I said Jordan, so chill out.
No, the Michael Jackson documentary that they had come out, that is crazy.
They got one of it? What?
Yeah, it's talking about all the child stuff. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
All right.
The Michael Jordan one worth a watch. I've been thinking about watching it.
You should watch it, Biggs. What else are you gonna do, Biggs?
I don't know.
Watch it. All right, here we go. This will be the last slide we end up getting today. There's a picture of our boy Lennon. So he's gonna take power. But remember what ended up happening to Lennon pretty soon after he took power.
Stroke.
Yeah, he has a stroke. So this is a picture of him post-stroke. He kind of lingered on for a little bit, but ultimately he's going to die. By the late 1920s, order's restored, and then Lennon ends up dying. There are two possible replacements. We'll talk about both. One is Leon Trotsky. He'd kind of been in since the beginning. You should remember him as Lennon's number 2 guy. He's the most obvious. He's going to be the most obvious successor to Vladimir Lenin, because he'd done a lot. He kind of single-handedly rallied the forces to make sure that they didn't lose the Russian Civil War, whereas this guy, Joseph Stalin, kind of he left trying to save his own life. His name literally means man of steel. He's described as when he enters a room, it's described as though a gray cloud kind of comes over the presence of the room. Never smiles, looks a lot like Coach Arnold. Okay, there he is right there. That's a young Joseph Stalin. But he is just not much expression ever. Just a pretty cold, calculating type individual. So between those two guys, they kind of struggle for power. Stalin ended up forcing Trotsky into exile. He ended up going from Turkey to Norway to maybe, I think it was France. And eventually he makes his way to Mexico City. And this is over the course of about 20 or so years. He ends up living in exile, going from place to place. Stalin sends people to try to kill him. Trotsky kind of dedicates his life to writing literature and pamphlets that would try to talk about Stalin as an evil dictator, which he was. Trotsky ended up, I think he was sitting in his house. He was living in Mexico City. He was sitting upstairs in his study. There was somebody who came in to assassinate him. They took out an ice pick, right? And they took it and lodged it in the back of his head. He ended up hitting him hard enough. Trotsky ended up getting up from his desk, and actually they got into a fight with Trotsky having an ice pick in the back of his head, and he ended up breaking the assassin's hand. Eventually, Trotsky's bodyguards realized that there was a struggle going on. They didn't seem like they were doing that great of a job, sleeping on the job, whatever. They wrestled the man to the ground. Trotsky was taken into the hospital, where he eventually died a day later. So Stalin ended up successfully taking leadership role in the Soviet Union, but he would not openly rule as a dictator. He was the face of the country, but officially it was supposed to be the workers who controlled it. He instituted a command economy, all decisions made by the state, as opposed to a free market economy, which is how we operate, which means businesses can operate any way they want to. And then he's going to send all other political opponents, anybody who opposed him or he thought was opposing him, he used his secret police to send them to Russian gulags. These gulags were located in Siberia. All right. There are estimates about how many people Stalin killed, but nobody really knows for sure. Estimates range anywhere from like 15 million to about 100 million people over the course of his reign. To put that into perspective, how many people did Hitler kill? Anybody know?
Was it like 50-something million?
Not quite that high.
Somewhere around there.
Hitler killed about 12, 15. I think the official number is 12. 6 million of them, of course, were what?
Jews.
Yeah, and then there's lots of other people he killed, either people who opposed him or homosexuals, gypsies, other people groups, other minority groups. And if you guys have that, you're good to go. If I haven't posted that homework, I'm going to do it later today. You've got the words if you want to look them up yourself and study them a little bit. But those are the words that you have for Friday. So between that and the homework, should be good to go. But we finished talking about the Russian Revolution. We'll cover the time period between World War I and World War II next class. And then next week we'll get on World War II. See you guys later.
All right.
See you, Coach.
All right.
See you, Coach.
See you later.
Sorry, not Coach.
Look at Logan Melendez putting the pedal to the metal, working hard.
Yes, sir.
Back from his 3-month spring break.
Yeah. Yeah.
See you, Coach.
All right, see you later.
All right.
You can finish writing that down. I'm just gonna get some cereal.
Sure. I finished. Thank you.
All right.
I'll see ya.
See you later.